But if you and I choose to live from a place of love, compassion, and kindness, it opens doors for us.
What's the best relationship advice you've ever heard?
Make a list.
A life is a tragedy in close-up and a comedy in long shot.
Here's how you start a charcoal barbecue.
11 things people learn too late in life.
Okay, besties, it's been a while since we've done relationship advice.
How do you lead effectively?
Hope that you'll use that telephone number right now and call in.
Have you ever seen that video of the ant and the pen?
No.
What's the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot. Changed my life. Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing.
All right, good morning. My name is Brennan, and I don't want to be an idiot. So welcome to you guys who are here in the room with us in Waterloo, watching in Westside, watching online, or watching in Chatham, or over there in Kitchener. Good morning to you. So yeah, I don't want to be an idiot. You don't want to be an idiot. We don't want to do things that an idiot would do. We don't want people to think that we're idiots. It's a pretty low bar, though. And so for me, I was given a piece of advice when I was in my early 20s, and it really shaped me in some big ways. And it was this: what's the wise thing to do? What's the wise thing to do? So anytime that I was faced with a situation and it's just like, I don't know what to do. Like, should I do this or this? Just ask myself the question, well, what's the wise thing to do? And sometimes the answer was obvious, sometimes it was not so obvious. And the times where it was really easy were the times where it was a choice between wise versus foolish. Who likes our huge phone TV? It's absolutely incredibly tall and makes me look very short. It's just actually really tall. Wise versus foolish, though, it's pretty easy to spot, and it's more of the situations that you would find yourself in your younger years are wise versus foolish. I once rode a children's bike down a slide and nailed the landing, and I felt pretty good. The second time I did it, I face planted, and I realized that was not a wise choice, and it should have been easy for me to spot that it wasn't going to end well for me. And so, wise versus foolish, as you get older, at least it should become something that is easier to spot. Most of us, we're not going to come out of church today, get into our cars, and try and race everybody out of the parking lot or skirt around them or do donuts in the parking lot. But when you were a teenager, maybe that wasn't so obvious. But as life goes on, wise versus foolish should become easier to spot, either because you've learned from your mistakes or it has just become obvious to you. But then as life goes on, things get a little bit more complex and a little bit more complicated. So what about the more complicated things? Like, what about your parenting? If you've got kids and you have to figure out how to parent them through life situations, you're like, I don't know what the wise thing to do is in this moment. What about that thing at work where you're like, there doesn't seem to be a clear right and wrong here. What is the wise thing for me to do? What about if your marriage, you're having a little bit of trouble in your marriage, what's the wise thing to do? How do I take a step forward when I'm really not sure what I should be doing next? As life moves on, the problems get a little more complicated, and wise and foolish is not really what we're dealing with anymore. It's kind of just, how do I make a great decision over a good decision, or how do I make a great decision over a really bad decision? Sometimes you need to pull the trigger and you need to make a choice. And if you don't make the choice is going to be made for you, and that might result in a bad decision for you. Things become a little bit more complicated. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, you might think of this passage, James 1:5. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So in that moment, we're like, man, what's the wise thing to do? I have no idea. I'm going to ask God. And there are times in your life where maybe you have asked God, and he's just given you kind of a direct download, given you the answer. I've experienced that before. Maybe you have too. But that does not always happen. That's the reality. Sometimes we ask God, and he kind of just says nothing, or he says, use the information that I've already given you. Use the wisdom that you already have to make a choice in this situation. And so when you get to that spot where you need to make a wise choice and God hasn't actually given you an answer, what do you draw from? You're going to draw from the information, from the things that you've already stored up in your head, stored up in your heart, the things that you've seen around you. That is where you're going to draw your choice from. And so where is all this information coming from? I would say that for a lot of us nowadays, The internet holds a lot of information. We see a lot of stuff, especially on social media. It might be guiding our lives in one way or another. So I'm going to give you a little, for the first service, this did not connect. Who remembers MySpace? Okay, we had literally one hand for the first service in MySpace, so this was like, it didn't work. So I'm going to just refresh your memory or teach you about MySpace really quickly. Social media, it used to be a little bit more social. MySpace had something called Top 10 Friends. Anyone remember that? Top 10 Friends. So I was in high school when we had MySpace, and Top 10 Friends, it was the people that I went to school with. It was the 10 people on this list, and the rankings could change day to day. If you messed up in your friend group, you could drop from 1 to 10, or you could be off the list completely, and then people would check the stuff out at nighttime. They'd go home and dial up on the computer, and then they'd come back to school and be totally ticked if they had dropped off your list or weren't on the list or weren't number one. We had this girl in our friend group that she had to be number one on every single person's list, and if she wasn't, you were going to hear about it every single day. So it was really, there was social politics that were at play all the time. And then we moved on to Facebook. Who knows Facebook? There we go. Oh, people are like, oh, do I know Facebook? Yeah. What a dark place sometimes. Okay, Facebook. Facebook, we used to write on each other's walls. We would actually talk to one another out in the open where no one could see, where everyone could see, talk about what we were going to do, like, hey, do you want to come over? All that kinds of stuff. We would talk to people right there. But then the social component of social media seemed to slip into just the direct message world and happens behind the scenes. And then what has happened in recent years is that your social media feed, it is just flooded with videos. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, especially like TikTok, obviously it's a video platform, even YouTube now, like it has just reels that you scroll through, and it is a lot of information coming at you really fast. So if you have never experienced what it's like to slide through a bunch of reels, we're gonna show you right now. Get ready.
I need to drill a hole in the ceiling, but I don't wanna make a mess, so I'm gonna test this life hack that I found of putting the bottom of a cup on the drill. That worked pretty well.
Oh no!
Know that you can flip things in a pan by just flipping
Coffee with a spoon by just...
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is it a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
Here are 5 easiest jobs you can get as a teen. And the last one is my absolute favorite. Number 1.
They've been married 82 years. So now, Miss Willie, you said that the secret to a happy marriage is being nice to each other. Yeah. Any other advice you have?
Just sit down and talk things over.
Talk things over?
Oh, yeah, and get a good understanding of what you're doing and where you're going. I lose it all.
You better watch out. You better not die. You better not crash. I'm telling you why. 'Cause you told your wife you're at work.
This is 20 grams of protein in tuna, and it contains 92 calories. This is 20 grams of protein in trail mix, and it contains 906 calories.
And this is my beach ball collection. I've got about 500 beach balls in here, and this is one of my favorites. I keep it near the door.
Love anything, and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. C.S. Lewis.
You put my heart back together. I searched the world to my head just to find out your ways better. Your ways better.
Okay, so if you don't scroll, I just like introduce you to it's actually kind of an addicting drug is what you've just been exposed to. What you probably experienced was we were going through that, you just flick, we don't even get all the way to the end. There's stuff that you don't like, you just keep going by because you hope that there's gonna be something that you wanna see on the next one. And there might not be, there might never be, but you keep on going. So much information. And you know how I know that you know about this? Because here's our average screen usage. The average person spends 6 hours and 38 minutes on an internet-connected screen, so not necessarily a phone, and then 2.5 hours is scrolling through social media. So we've got 2.5 hours of scrolling through social media, and this is the majority of what social media is these days. It's video-based content. It's a lot of information that is flying at us really, really fast, and it keeps you hooked in, which is why people use it for 2.5 hours. You might be saying, hey, I don't use it for 2.5 hours. You might not, because that's the average. Might be a little bit less, but you might use it for way more than 2.5 hours for social media. High schoolers, these averages are way higher, but 2.5 hours, even if you're somewhere around this, man, that is a lot. And so through this series called Scrolling for Wisdom, we're going to be talking about the content that we find on social media. We're acknowledging the reality that many people are on social media a lot. So this isn't a phone talk that's like, get off your phone and stop using it. We're acknowledging that you're using it. So how can we use it well? And so if you're on your screen this much, you got to ask the question, what is influencing you? What is actually influencing your life? And if you're on your screen on social media this much, is it influencing you? The answer must be yes. It must be. And when you think about the term influencer, so someone who creates videos on a regular basis and thinks it's their job would call themselves an influencer on social media. It is their job to get you to buy, to believe whatever it is that they are talking about. That is the reason that they are making videos, so that you would believe or do the thing that they want you to do. They're not secretive about influencing you. That is what they're actually trying to do. And so we're gonna watch another pack of reels here, and they're a little more intense. There's still some funny ones thrown in there, and for those of you who are already bored, like I got you covered, we're gonna get back to the reels in a moment. Some of them are quite intense. They're gonna tell you how life is, okay? And so as you watch these, start to ask some questions about what it is that you're hearing. So I'm not saying these are things to live by, these are just things that you would probably see on your screen.
If you made $1 a second, you'd be a millionaire in 12 days. If you made $1 a second, you'd be a billionaire within 31 years.
Guys, I just figured out a dad hack that will change your life. Gotcha. There are no hacks. Everything is hard. Kids don't listen. House is always messy. This is your life now. Good luck.
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Believe in yourself.
What is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
It can't be done.
This is a common thing. You speak your truth, it's not well received, and then you throw your hands up and say, people aren't ready for my truth yet. What it means is that you've been plugged into a world and a reality that's populated by people who are not comfortable with your truth or anyone's truth, and that's okay.
We think about making our kids happy. What we're actually saying is, I am prioritizing my kids' short-term ease. I am making my kids' life easy and comfortable in the short term. And what ends up happening, not when you do that a couple of times, but as a pattern, is you actually narrow the range of emotions kids believe they can cope with.
You get much further in life by being consistently reliable than you do by being occasionally extraordinary. And that had always really sat well with me. I kind of understood that.
That's great truth.
I just have to show up every single day.
Two kinds of people in life. They're winners and they're losers. And the definition is this. Losers take things that happen to them and that they feel inside that suck, and they wallow, and they use it for self or outward destruction. Winners take whatever they feel it, it sucks, and they transmute it into things that are good for themselves and for the world. Period.
The next person to make a mess is going to bed.
Can buy you happiness if you earned it, because then along the way you have both pride and confidence in yourself, and you have a sense of accomplishment, and you set out to do something and you were right.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? You are what you think about. Everything that you think about, you become. You become what you think about. Thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to behaviors. Behaviors leads to lifestyle. Lifestyle determines your destiny. to everything.
This is really good. This is really good. My heart soars with the eagle's nest.
Don't rely on social media. Put it down, turn it off, shut up, be quiet, learn, read, relax, get better. First part of your life you learn, second part of your life you earn, third part of your life you return.
Can you be my therapist?
I already am.
Okay, so super confident delivery of these ideas. They come like if you're on your phone, if you're on computer scrolling through this stuff, this information is not like kind of a take it or leave it. It's just presented as like, this is the truth. This is the way life is. So if you're going through life and you have decisions that you need to make, you have choices that you need to figure out, and you want to know what the wise thing to do, and you've been consuming content like this, do you think that might be sitting in your head and you maybe onboarded this into your heart and you might act on the information that you have been consuming? It could be a good thing. It could also be a bad thing. There's a lot of great information on the internet. There's a lot of great information in reels and these little snippets, but there's also a lot of information that's way off base. And so the question is, do I actually want to use what I'm seeing? Do I actually want to use the information, these ideas, these worldviews that I'm soaking in? Is this something that I actually want to onboard into my life and actually make choices based upon? You might not consciously do it, but you might do it after you've seen it. You might be like, oh, I'm just going to do this because it's something that I've heard, and boom, you've made a choice that may or may not be a good one for you. So a question, or something that is the reality for all of us, is that we have a worldview. We have a worldview, and this is something that we talk about. So I'm the high school youth pastor here, and we talk about this all the time in youth, about like building a worldview. So a worldview is something, it's the way that you see life. We talk about it as like a pair of glasses that you put on and you go out and see life. And so you can just passively let your worldview build, and you just kind of just take what it is and onboard a bunch of stuff, and then you start to see life in a certain way. Or you can intentionally build out a worldview in the way that you view life. And so another thing that we say in youth is that we don't teach them stuff that is just for like high school students. This isn't just like coping methods to get through high school. This is stuff for people to live lives that will pull them towards like what God has for them. So the questions that they deal with in high school, it might not be as complicated. It might be wise versus foolish. But us, if we're getting older, this is still an important thing that we need to understand. What is it? What is our worldview, and how are we looking at life? And so as a follower of Jesus, your worldview should be founded in Scripture. It should be founded in who Jesus is and the things that God says are good for you, the things that you should go towards and the things you shouldn't. The way that we look at people should be informed by who Jesus is, what he has said, who he has called us to be. We should be this reflection of God into this world. And so the way that we look at life is our worldview. And then the way that I like to think of the other end of this is, what is your filter? So we have a way of looking at life, but we also need to have a way of receiving the things that we take in this life. So what is your filter? What's your filter? How do you say yes to an idea, yes to something that's presented as truth, or no to something that is presented as truth to you? Do we just take it all, or are we able to stop some things and not let those things enter into our hearts and into our minds, especially if it's information that we might act on in the future? So what is your filter? There we go. What is your filter? There we go. I'm back. So some of us, we would just say like, I just have great intuition. We're real gut feel people. I would put myself and be like, I would say that I have a pretty good idea of what people are feeling, if something's true, if they're telling me a lie or not. Would any of you put yourself in that category? Just like, I kind of have a good read on people. Who would say they're kind of good at reading people? Just like 12 of you. Okay. Everyone else? Okay. Well, I feel like I'm good at reading people. And you might feel like you're good at reading the people in your family. Anyone feel like they're good at reading people in their family? Still even less? Oh, okay. Couple people. Anyways, I feel like I'm good at reading my wife. So there was one day where, so my wife Erin and I, we woke up, as we do every day, and start the day. Never mind. We woke up, the day continues, we go on, and I'm like, oh, there's something off. There's something off. I'm like, Erin, what's up? How are you doing? She's like, I'm fine, I'm just tired. And so I know I need to ask again. I say, Erin, what's going on? How are you feeling? She says, I'm just tired. So I take it. She's just tired. We're going to move on with our days. But I know that there's more to it than this because I can read her really, really well. And so she heads into the office and I'm working from home. And I'm just mulling things over. I'm like, man, what's going on? Who could have caused a problem in my wife's life? And what did they do to her? And I need to fix it. And so I'm just thinking about this stuff, knowing that my wife is just not having a great day. She says she's tired, but there's got to be more going on than that. And then I'm on Amazon, and I look in our order history, and very near to when I asked her this morning, how are you doing? There was a purchase for a marriage devotional. And there's nothing wrong with marriage devotionals, but the timing of this was odd because she didn't tell me about it, and I didn't know we were getting a marriage devotional. It really made me feel like, oh man, I've done something so bad. I've done something so bad that she's now seeking out outside help to fix our marriage that I have just put on the rocks today somehow. So we've got this marriage devotional. I don't tell her that I know about it, and so I keep digging throughout the day, and I send her some texts and some hilarious jokes that she didn't laugh at and all of this stuff, and she's just tired. And then by the end of the day, she gets home, she lays down on the couch, I sit down beside her, and I'm just like, what's going on? And she just closes her eyes and doesn't acknowledge me. I'm like, whoa, I'm in trouble here. I've done something. But by the end of the day, even after I put all these pieces together, I learned that our son, who's 5 years old, found a Kindle device in our house. And he has purchased a marriage devotional as his first ever online purchase as an accident. And so everything that I was filtering that day was through the light of, wow, we're in trouble because we have this marriage devotional in our Amazon order history and it's showing up tomorrow. But no, this was a complete accident. All the cues I was reading, even the best gut feel people, they get it wrong. And I'm sure you've been there. So what is your filter? And so I think if you have a filter in your life that is just the default one, it looks a lot like this. So when you're thinking about information that you're processing, when you're talking to people and you're like, is this true? Is this something that I want for my life? Your default filter is going to be, hey, looks good. That looks good to me. Sounds good. I'm okay with that. Feels good. Yep, I like the way it feels with me. Less tension. Have you ever had a problem and what you would love to have is just less tension? So whatever the answer is that's just going to make you not feel that way anymore, that can feel pretty good. So I'm going to let that in. Less tension, and then what I want to hear. Have you ever looked for an answer that's just tell me what I want to hear? I think this is the default filter that we have if we're not intentional about actually building a strong filter. And this filter, it might lead you in the right direction sometimes, but it might not. And so what we want to look at this morning is just how do we build a strong filter for all of this incoming information. So if you are soaking up information for potentially 2.5 hours more or less a day through social media, these confidently delivered ideas about how life is, how you should do life, how you should parent, how you should be in a relationship, how you should handle your money, all of this stuff, how do we know if it's good? That is the real question. So we need to build a strong filter. And it starts with this, knowing what the Bible actually says. So know what the Bible actually says. So we're going to go back to James 1:5, and it said this, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So like we said off the top, yeah, God does this. You ask him for wisdom in a moment, he can just give you that. He can give you the answer. Maybe you've experienced it, maybe you haven't. But there's more to this than just that. And so the book of Proverbs, if you've ever read it, it's called the book of wisdom. So it is a book of wisdom. And there's lots of stuff in the book of Proverbs that says, if you do this, then this will happen. If you don't do this, then this won't happen. Like if you keep your mouth shut in a conversation rather than opening it and saying something you shouldn't, you will look wise. Generally, that's the way it works. If you are super selfish and isolate yourself, that's not going to be a good path for you. If you don't count the cost before you start a project and you don't know where it's headed, that's probably going to lead to ruin. So the way I like to think about Proverbs is it's kind of the way God has set the world to work most of the time. Most of the time, this is the way the world works. And so check out what it says in Proverbs 2 about wisdom. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding. Indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, And if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, like we saw in the other passage in James. The Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come the knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright. He's a shield to those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just, and he protects the way of his faithful ones. So this passage is saying, yes, God gives wisdom, but at the beginning of it, how did it say that God gives wisdom? It's there for you. If you turn your ear towards wisdom, if you focus on it, if you apply it, if you put it in your heart, put it in your head, and then act on these things, this is the way that God can give you wisdom. And we often say the Bible doesn't have every answer to every single situation that you might face in life, and that is true. But it has a whole lot of it in there. So knowing what your Bible actually says, man, that can help you to filter out all of these inputs, all of this information that is coming at you. And so the next thing would be ask thoughtful questions. So if you're talking to somebody, or if you're watching a reel and it's just like confidently delivered and you're like, I don't know, just ask the question, is this true? Is this true? Is this actually true of life? Even if they present it confidently, doesn't mean it's true. Is this true? Ask good questions. What's the goal here? Especially with social media. They're influencers. Their goal is to influence you to some end. Are they selling you something? Are they trying to just get you to buy a book? Are they just trying to get you to watch more videos? What is the actual goal here? And does this idea pull me towards or away from God? These are thoughtful questions that we can start to ask about the content that we are seeing. And then the last thing would be this. Check the focus. Is this an idea that is just there to serve me? Is it there to just serve me? Is it just for me? Is it an idea that's there to serve others? And is it serving God's kingdom or just my own? And so I don't want you to think that as you ask these questions, it's just always no. Like, I can't take on any information that I see in the internet. There's lots of good stuff that you can find in the internet. There's lots of great reels with great content, even from people who are not followers of Jesus. They can have great ideas that Jesus would say, like, hey, that's cool. But are you actually trying to determine whether something is true or not, whether it's something that you should onboard into your life or not? So we want to build a strong filter, know what the Bible actually says, ask thoughtful questions, and check the focus. Because as we go through life and we have decisions to make, and if God doesn't give us just this divine download in that moment, like he could, but he doesn't always, what information are you actually drawing from? And is the information that you've tried to filter out, tried to determine if it's actually wise, not just presented as something that is wise? And so over the next few weeks in this series, we're going to go over specific topics and be looking at reels and trying to just test them for wisdom to see if they're actually something good, something true that we want to onboard into our hearts. Because those moments where you have those choices that you need to make, where you're not sure, you might draw from some information that, man, if you could have it another way, you wouldn't draw from it. And because we are people who are soaking in so much information every single day, this is a really basic but really important skill for us to develop as followers of Jesus, because we want to be people who are going after the things that God has for us. We want to be people who are acting and looking like Jesus in our everyday life. And we want to be people who are just a reflection of the wisdom that he would have for us. So let me pray, and we will send you on your way today. God, we thank you. We thank you for who you are. We thank you that you love us. We thank you that you do speak to us. We thank you for those moments where you do give us wisdom when we ask for it, and it's just a word from you or a feeling in our heart or in our head. But God, I just pray that in those moments where we have to make choices, where things are a lot more complicated, a lot more complex, God, you would help us to be better at discerning what is truly wise. What are the things that would draw us towards you rather than pull us away from you? What are ideas that we could say could be based in Scripture? God, I just pray that we would become better at this. Help us to just be triggered every time that we see these videos now, to just ask the question, is this actually true? So God, we just thank you for what you're doing in our hearts and doing in our lives, and we ask this in your name. Amen.